Hi, folks. Welcome to Follow the Leader, a podcast focused on telling character-driven stories through the use of GM-less tabletop games where we can all take the lead. You can find us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at FTLcast and at FTLcast.com. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/FTLcast. Today we're playing Blackborough Academy by Becky Annison. For those of you who are new to this game, here are the basics. You play a group of teachers at a magical school, the Blackborough Academy. You are all friends and fought on the front lines of a war against the Shattered 15 to 20 years ago. Now you look after the next generation and hope they don't ever go through what you went through. Shepherd the next generation of teenage magicians whilst fighting back an old evil, the Shattered, confronting your past and evading the school governors. The first rule of Blackborough Academy, protect the students. This is your fight, not theirs. I'm August, and you can find me at Strange Harpy on Tumblr and Harpydora on Blue Sky and itch.io. My pronouns are they, them. Playing with me today, we have a special guest, Richard.
Hi, I'm Richard, and my pronouns are he, him. You can find me on Blue Sky at Corvus Azure. And most of the time, you can find me over at our partner podcast, The Room Where It Happened.
Hell yeah. We're also joined by Cory.
Hi folks, my name's Cory. My pronouns are he, him. You can't find me anywhere but here with you, and also on Sagas of the Sunless Reach.
We're joined by Jade.
Hello, I'm Jade. I also answer Dakota. I use they, them pronouns. And you can find me most places on the internet at Jade Oxford Rose.
And rounding out our bunch in the anchor position is Schrag.
Hey folks, I'm Schrag. I use he, him pronouns. You can find me on Blue Sky at The Secret Frog. I form the critical mass of puns now that we also have Richard and Cory. So Jade is going to suffer quite a bit.
It's true.
Okay, but who's going to form the head, though?
It's just my presence tips the scales.
Let's
we had
go.
2, now we have 3.
Our lines, things we absolutely do not want to see, are homophobia, transphobia, racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, violence against children and animals, sexual assault, domestic violence or intimate partner violence, unwanted pregnancy, and plagues and pandemics. Our veils, which are things we're fine with addressing but will just fade to black on, are steamy situations, graphic descriptions of bodily harm, and terminal illness. Content warning for this game may include body horror. Now that we've got all that, let's get started.
Yippee!
All right, so in Blackborough Academy, well, let me back up a sec because they've got a cute couple of paragraphs about the world of the Academy that I want to go ahead and read. Magic is real. Many families can trace their magical lineage back through many generations to the 1800s and beyond. But there are plenty of new talents emerging all the time, and family lines are not everything. Magic was and remains uncommon. The Academy was founded in the early Victorian era by an enlightened Quaker woman named Mary Blackborough. Not dissuaded by accusations of witchcraft and devilry, she realized that space, privacy, and relative safety was all that was required to help the talented realize their potential and gain control over their magic. After that, their actions were their own, shaped by their very human morality and sense of responsibility, just like everyone else. Talent can encompass many forms of magic. Elemental, physical, shapeshifting, nature, healing, and innate ability can be trained to make it more controlled and slightly more powerful. There are limits, though. Anything really big or long-lasting will take several magic users working together or items of power. So we do start by creating our characters. We are all playing teachers at the Academy, and we have several questions to answer. So, Richard, since you're the special guest, why don't you go first?
Okay. I will be playing Seshmir Narash, known to the students as Professor Narash and other teachers as Seshmir. He uses he, him pronouns. Seshmir is a blue-scaled dragon person with flat silver eyes. He has a tail but no wings. He favors pale gray suits and an overcoat and some form of hat. He spent years as a private investigator before turning to academia, mostly to hide from the cult he accidentally created. He has an innate knack for domestic and cleaning magic, as well as being able to throw bolts of energy that push and pull their target around the area. But his area of instruction is summoning and demonology. What keeps Seshmir awake at night is the aforementioned cult of the Nameless Mother may come for him, and he is afraid that she is the one actually behind the Shattered.
Hell yeah. I will be playing Marius Thank the Gods for Small Favors. Professor favors to students, Marius to other teachers. They are agender and use they them pronouns. They are a short and willowy person with long brown hair that they keep in an elaborate braid. They tend to wear formal robes even when not teaching. They choose to look this way because they have a strong sense of propriety, at least at a surface level. Their magical talent is ley line manipulation, and they teach ley studies primarily, mostly as an intro course, but they do sometimes offer more advanced courses. And they share interim head teachership with another teacher who will be announced. And what is keeping Marius up at night are nightmares to do with the last time the Shattered reared its head. They blame themselves for the rise of the Shattered and dream of succumbing to it.
Tasty. Okay, that puts me next. I have pulled across Apricus the Luminary. Uses he/him pronouns. That is, Professor Apricus or Apricus. He's a mononym. No one calls him Mr. the Luminary. Please don't do that. He would think you're strange. The way that he looks, he's got tan skin, brown eyes. He keeps his hair oiled back and carefully trimmed and maintained, along with a groomed goatee. His clothes make him look like a poisonous animal between his bright red robe and acid green accents up and down. And he also has the leather accessories of a dabbler in the alchemical arts, including a bandolier, a belt, a satchel, and a very good pair of thick leather boots. His magical talent relates to the weather, in particular its small-scale elemental evocation, and just a little bit of potion making that he does, mostly to the level of being dangerous, maybe not necessarily competent. His subject is a basic elemental magics, and his advanced courses are group rituals to cause large weather patterns, rainstorms or snow, thunder and lightning, temperature fronts, and some of the bigger ones. The thought that keeps him awake at night is what it took for him to fight back the Shattered alongside everyone. And I'll read this out as literally as I typed it. The sun, the sun, the sun, the sun, the sun, even with eyes closed, the sun.
So, I will be playing Morden Ferida, that's mixed Ferida to students, Morden to the staff. Mostly mask individual who uses he/him pronouns. He has light tan skin, dark brown hair, almost black, threaded with silver that falls around jaw length, and dark eyes, usually hidden behind blue-lensed glasses. In dress, he favours modern clothes as opposed to traditional wizarding robes, in blacks, dark blues, greys, and purples, and more silver accessories than is practical. And he dresses like that because he is that bitch, as I have written in the notes. He is just that bitch. His magical talent is communication without borders, multiple languages, sigils, symbology, linguistics, telepathy. If it involves communication between people or things over time and distance, that's what he can do. What he teaches, however, is spellcraft and composition. the core components and methodology of how magic is channeled in spellcasting, the limitations of it, and the impact of culture and the self on how magic is cast, as well as the writing and creation of new spells and ritual magics. And the thing keeping him awake at night is the nightmares, both his and those of others he can't keep at bay, and prophetic dreams that he cannot pass.
And I will be playing, alive and awake for the first time on this podcast, Edward Park.
Woohoo!
I have asked at least once for my colleagues to call me Ed, whether or not they do so, or just call me Edward. We'll see. Ed is a Korean man, just above average height, but a bit on the weedy side. He's got black hair that comes just below the chin, that's usually gathered into a top knot. He's got stubble. He does wear the formal robes. They're hemmed to a practical length. He would describe them as black robes with gold accents. Most other people would describe them as gold robes. And I feel like the bylaws say that the head teacher has to wear blue. And so he's got just like a blue wristband that he wears. His magical talent is the anatomy of magic. Basically, why does magic work the way it does, and how does one replicate it, which is theoretically quite useful when teaching students how to perform it themselves. He is primarily focused on head teaching duties. He takes on most of the administrative responsibilities for that, and leaves most of the job that requires skill and proficiency with magic to Marius. But Ed will also oversee potion labs. What keeps him awake at night is the governors. They distrust that we could stop the Shattered should it return. I tell myself I fear that they are wrong and will make things worse, but in truth, I fear that they're right.
Oof. All right, Richard. Which teacher do you have unresolved business with, or which teacher are you hiding something from, and what is it?
It would be Apricus, who does not know the true nature of the Nameless Mother, and Seshmir is worried about the reaction should he find out.
And which teacher would you go to if there was trouble, and why them?
That would be Edward, because Seshmir respects his knowledge of how and why magic works, versus Seshmir's, I made a deal and I have power now.
All right. The teacher that Marius has unresolved business with is Morden, because they were in a relationship at one point and they broke up, and the breakup wasn't exactly clean and things are tense, at least on Marius's side. And the teacher that they would go to if there was trouble is vastly dependent on the situation. If there were administrative trouble, they'd go to Ed, that kind of thing. But the only other teacher that Marius wouldn't approach is Morden, except maybe grudgingly.
Rude.
Again, this is... I think that a lot of these hang-ups are largely on Marius's side and not necessarily something that Morden is also going through. But, Marius is a messy bitch, so...
Beautiful. On Apricus's end, he somehow gained the view of Ed being a very nice, reliable soul, or at least practical, and deeply desires for this person of particular influence to keep appearing competent and not like a weird fringe weather theorist when he's talking about his cosmic weather patterns, and just the idea somewhere that, stick with me for a second, what if the sun was sentient? For who Apricus tends to go to when there is trouble, I think he tends to consort with Morden. Just knowing that someone can communicate unilaterally, universally, is great because, he can demonstrate basic concepts himself, like how fire good. But when it comes to, more extensive things that require maybe reaching a bit further than words and actions, it's good to have someone in your corner that can do a bit more.
So for Morden, the teacher he's hiding something from is Edward. Specifically, Edward's wife Chloe was killed in the battle against the Shatter. And she shows up in Morden's dreams, and he had to figure out if it's her spirit like reaching out or if it's just how the universe is deeming to speak to him. But no, he's not brought that up, and he's not gonna. Not unless something really changes. Because Ed is the kind of guy who might be like, so my wife is dead but talking? Okay, so how do we bring her back? And just like, leave her alone. The teacher that Morden will go to if there's trouble is usually Seshmir. Because like Morden, Seshmir comes from a background that isn't in academia. And he approaches problems in a way he would say is more pragmatic out loud. I think between him and Sesh, it's just like, you and me, we're operating on a similar moral wavelength around all these nerds. So...
Pragmatic, I like that.
A peep behind the curtain. When we were discussing this game of Oops All Wizards, I must stress how much the Seshmir and Morden are warlocks in their original incarnations. So the fact that they've somehow both ended up at a wizarding magic school is so fucking funny to me.
Well, it takes all kinds.
Sure. But yep, that's Morden.
Yep. Ed is hiding something from Marius. Ed found a loophole in the bylaws that could relieve Marius of their head teaching responsibilities, but will not tell them. As for what teacher Ed would go to if there was trouble, it does, of course, depend on the situation, but he usually trusts Apricus to have the most practical approach.
Hell yeah. All right, now that we've made our characters, we have to create the Shattered. There is a threat in the world, the Shattered. 15 to 20 years ago, you and the other teachers defeated it. What was it? Agree on a few details about the threat and how it manifested.
Oh, what's in a horrific world-ending beast?
So you think I like the idea of it manifesting as some physical creature. I'm trying to keep misfits and magic out of my head because I like a lot of that, and I'm like, nope, wall off the Dimension 20.
Yeah, fairly put. Whenever I think about cataclysmic events, my tendency is always to think about, I don't know, like a chrono-triggered Lavos, the Devourer kind of situation, or other big thing that do big problem. But I do also like the thought of it being a wave of something taking over, if that makes sense.
What if? It's called the Shattered. What if it's like showed up as lots of small things that could coalesce into one big thing?
I was gonna suggest, what if it's a big version of a small creature? So yeah, tons of small creatures that coalesce is so good.
Knowing the inclinations of some of the people on the call, what if it appeared as, and it's just good creepy factor, like strange birds?
Ooh.
Because like I'm thinking like murmurations and stuff like that, and how birds can look flying in formation, and just the idea of like a couple of odd birds showing up. New species, omen, and no, oh no, this is this real bad. This really bad.
Oh, so we've got one wizard who always sees the sun, and our threat is starlings.
Ha! Oy. Awful. Oh man.
And a bird-like, also by extension dinosaur-like, when all is one thing.
You know, when they described a murder of crows, I don't think this is what they had in mind.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe there's a reason we called it a murder.
God, that's horrifying. The murder of crows as a recent, renewal of a term. Like a situation in which a saying is just totally taken out of its context and completely changed.
Yeah. I like the idea that maybe this is something from another plane, another world, ? But it's definitely something not of Earth. or our material existence.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with that, because I was thinking, how could, in this particular case, Apricus mistake, for instance, a presence from the outer realms as this sort of thing, and what also would cause concerns that could be. So, yeah, not of our world feels like a very good and easy way to tag that together.
And this is me over here suppressing the squee of delight at this turn of events.
Apricus, like,
Beautiful.
what if the sun was sentient? Counter,
Yeah.
what if the sun was a giant egg?
Ooh,
Oof.
awful.
Oof.
I don't want to know what hatches out of that. Maybe I do, though.
You think the sun is speaking to you, but what if there's something inside the sun?
What if there's something inside the sun and we're only hearing its nascent thoughts as it forms into another being that may or may not change the nature of our world?
Yeah.
That's the sun. No. That's my son.
It's my son.
Beautiful. So what has happened? Do we think that's enough to go on? Because it's fun to keep it like sketched pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what has happened? Why is it back again? Are normal birds acting weird?
Ooh,
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. But how are they acting weird?
And maybe it could be like, whether in the same way that like we in our world have to deal with the fact that, the bees are disappearing. Maybe the birds are disappearing.
Oh no. Actually, yeah, that could be it. Like, we normally keep a flock around because some people need to do,
You always
like,
need feathers in magic.
Yeah, and you also always need like messengers, and
Yeah.
it kind of helps to have a bird flying a message because no one does that anymore, right? So
Yeah, but like maybe it's like, I mean, if we want to have maybe like some local bird population to the academy is migratory and they haven't come back.
yeah.
Or it's just been slow. Like,
Mm.
we're only noticing now that there are fewer coming back than there used to be.
Mm. Yeah, so a reduction in numbers and yeah. Beautiful. See, I love this next category that we have to answer because I feel like this is just going to be pulling from the back catalogue. This is just going to be pulling from the character roster.
We could.
Like, it could be two things.
All right. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to briefly describe and name some students. Who is one student who is struggling with their magic due to personal problems?
I'll tell you what, if we rattle through the rest of them as well, because we might get ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have a student who is too clever by half and is onto you. One student who is the subject of a cryptic prophecy, and one student who just can't seem to stick to the rules.
Oh, now that you have mentioned it, I'm looking back through my catalog.
I mean, I came up with a name for one student who is the subject of a cryptic prophecy. If there's no one from the back catalog we want to pull for that specifically.
No, let's go for it.
Go forth and conquer.
Cassie Knowles. Cassie Knowles.
Is this a Cassandra reference?
Yeah, Cassie short for Cassandra. Knowles, as in Beyonce, as in she's Destiny's Child.
Oh, man. See, this is the thing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I go for one the face. You pull some real good references. It always catches me off guard. I have quite a lot of magically inclined sorts. Dang. There's Soleil, there's Heath, Warden, technically, but kind of, not really.
Well, we've got 4 students that we need to name, and then on our next thing we have to discuss, there's only one individual we have to come up with, so maybe each of us comes up with either one student or the next point.
Yeah.
Hey, August, is Parker ever magical?
Sometimes Parker's a dragon.
That's why I was thinking of pulling them in, because we already have Seshmir.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that if Parker were a student, he would be the student who's struggling with their magic.
Fair, fair.
Bless.
That's exactly.
What are Cassie's pronouns?
She, her.
Okay.
You know, I think I could put forward Soleil for the student who just can't seem to stick to the rules.
Who is Soleil?
Soleil, very forge animation of tools person, someone that I played back in Arcane Academia. Shorter end, kind of covered in gear and other sorts of things. This is the clothing covered core character like line of people, another person along with that one. In this one, it's a bunch of protective gear with an engineer's cap, like a trained engineer's cap on top, and fingerless utility gloves.
Amazing.
This is someone who is sprightly, curious, loves to get ahead of himself, and works very well alone, which may not help when it comes to, trying to learn to be subtle. Beauty. Covered in padded protective gear, wears a trained engineer's cap, fingerless utility gloves for dexterity, green eyes, tufts of blonde hair, and not a lot else visible. And short. So, this leaves us with who a clever student is.
Yeah.
Any proposal?
Who wants to suggest a clever bastard and who wants to suggest a regular bastard?
Let's go!
I was trying to remember. Oh, go on, Richard, please.
Yeah, please.
I think that an interesting option for a student who is too clever by half would be the future Dr. Cory Moran.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes! Incredible. Love this.
Perfect. Beautiful. For those uninitiated listeners, please listen to the bleed season of The Room Where It Happened. It is delightful. You don't have to listen to the Loom season to get anything. It's standalone and very good.
All right. So while we fill out some details about what those students look like, maybe their vibes, the next query is about the governors. There's only one governor we ever see. They are a pain and wield unspecified political and social power over you. Describe them in a sentence and name them. So I'm just trying to decide whether I want to inflict this fate on a character that already exists or if I want to come up with somebody new. Okay, All right, how about a baroness?
Ooh.
I just want something that feels like really old, like minor gentry or just gentry in the UK, and just because there's all, especially on private schools, the UK kind of private schools, which are actually called public school. It's so stupid.
Huh?
Yeah. The Eton and stuff is considered a public school. That's the type. It's a weird bullshit thing. I don't know why it is that way.
I need to pull the person nodding does not understand image really quick for that one.
Baroness Estelle Cartwright.
Ooh.
I think she's actually younger than all of us. And is possibly but has ideas because she's part of her family have always been on the governor's board. And she's the latest Cartwright, and there is definitely a wing of the school or something that is got Cartwright in the name. But she's sort of it's not power hungry, but it's sort of a little bit desperate for respect and also just wield the power that she has. But there's also something very funny to me about somebody called Baroness Cartwright who's a 27-year-old. It's just very amusing to me.
You mean they don't spring fully formed at the age of 50 from the manor houses? I don't think I believe you.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah. Yep. Nodding my head. What is their style? I just gesture kind of vaguely. Like, are they do they have something to prove? What's the situation here?
I think maybe she doesn't have magical talent and it bothers her.
Ooh, potent.
Let's say she's played by Florence Pugh, who does deserve better, but also she's a great actress, so she can deal with it. Yeah, with like a Mia Farrow style pixie cut in Rosemary's Baby, dresses like somebody older, like trying to convey that kind of authority. I don't know how well it's working. All right.
And now we recount our past. As a group, we answer the following questions. During the war with the Shattered, you and your other teachers did something you feel guilty about. What happened and who got hurt because of what you did? I mean, the obvious answer for who got hurt was Chloe, right?
Well, yeah.
There's also the question of like, oh, so were we teachers then as well? Like, because this is clearly a nod to a certain franchise of books. So, or to be fair, not like magical academies are a new thing, but if like 15, 20 years ago, we would have been presumably, given the age a lot of these characters tend to be in their original iterations, most of them tend to be in somewhere in their 30s or 40s. So, most of us were probably not working here at Blackborough necessarily yet. So, and maybe it was how maybe Seshmir met the academy folks as well, was like getting in on the battle, and then it's just like when needed to hide from the college, it's like, hey, that's that teacher, that academy, yes.
Is there a position still open?
Yeah,
here?
it's like you've always got a job here if you want it. Just like, great, actually, about that.
I dig it.
Because these questions we're answering collectively, each of us there's one question that we all answer individually. Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what is this? How public was this exactly?
I like the idea that, like, I mean, it was impossible to ignore what the Shattered was doing, but it's entirely possible that what we did is hush-hush. So, like, we can't even really talk about it to anybody but ourselves because, you know, as far as everybody else is concerned, like, we didn't, nobody knows that we're responsible for beating the Shattered back.
Well, what if we had to do a ritual? Like, and that's specifically why us as a group of people are linked in it.
Yeah. I could easily see that. One of those things where, God's a grand burrow, something or other, out in the middle of nowhere, drawing the Shattered off to somewhere where no one can see to then dispatch them.
Oh boy, so the next question is really fun. What guilty role did each of you play?
Well,
oh, what role to play in a ritual?
Morton wrote it.
Yes, I agree.
Like, because this was one of the things, like, when we were looking at our teachers and their specialities, especially looking at, like, Ed and Morden's, whose special talent or specific talent and teaching are arguably quite similar, but I really like the idea that they're approaching it. Like, Morden comes at it from very much like an English, like teaching English. It's all about, and composition. It's very much arts versus STEM approaches to magic. But I really like.
There's the intuitive angle and then the pedagogical one, right?
Right, because there are always going to be some people that lean into thinking about magic more like formula and the the flow of energy. And I think you've talked a little before about the physics of magic as being an interest to Marius. So I just like the idea of a bunch of people who just have very different sort of approaches to it, or how they conceptualize it. But yeah, Morden wrote / conceived the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say Apricus probably powered it.
Mr. Evoker.
Generating the foci, identifying the sources, calling down the stars.
And I think Seshmir gave them the place to perform it.
Mm.
I think Ed delayed it because he could tell that someone would have to sacrifice themselves and was trying desperately to refine it so that wouldn't happen.
Oh no.
I think delayed and refined is super interesting.
Yeah.
Like trying to hone it on the fly, then realizing, oh no, it's going to need this element and I don't want it to, is very cool. What about Marius? I mean, did Marius cast it? Did they lead it? Were they the primary caster?
Oh man. So if Chloe was the one who sacrificed herself and Marius cast the ritual, that means Marius was directly or indirectly responsible for her death.
That's a fun thing for them to carry.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Perfect.
Just another little cross to bear.
So to the next question, who else was involved and where are they now? Obviously, we know Chloe was, and she is now deceased. Was anybody else involved?
What if, in a similar vein to, like, Aragorn doing the big fight while Frodo and Sam actually carry the ring, like, the old head teacher was doing this big flashy fight with the Shattered, knew what we were doing.
Love that.
But has since, like, recently vanished.
Yes, good. Oh, it was Arcady. How about that?
Ooh.
Okay.
The Magus, as they were in their original iteration.
Love it.
That means Octurus was there as well, just because those two are a package deal in my head. Zach won't mind. Octurus was also there. Thank you, August.
I'm sorry.
No. Like, it's like Octurus covers their back when they cast. It's sort of like copacetic.
Yeah. Whew.
All right.
Are there any other branches of the Academy that may be involved in the effort?
Maybe, but I kind of think we don't need more than that for now.
Okay.
Maybe it can come up in play. But I think for now...
Okay.
What have we done as a group to cover it up from the kids at the school?
Lied, cheated, stole, begged, borrowed.
There is no trace of this, like, the elements. Like, the place it was, you can't get there. We've, like, scrubbed it from maps. Any written records of the spell are gone. It's like, we don't want anyone recreating it. Because of it was such a, like, especially if it did something to the landscape as well. If we, like, created, like, a portal that sucked the Shattered back out of this plane, like a banishment ritual, but it did something to where it was, which was why it was so specific that we needed not just a place that was away from civilization. So yeah, and like it would be a really easy spell to fuck up and like banish yourself away or something like that. Like it's too potent a magic that we don't want anyone making the mistake. Also because somebody died, and we do not want students learning about the very real element of rituals. It's just like, hey, sometimes you fuck up and people die. Like,
yeah, sort of in that line, like How far would we have gone with covering this up? Would we have gone far to the point of selectively extracting that knowledge?
As in removing it from people?
Including ourselves.
Hmm.
Like, how deeply are we going into a no one must know this kind of thing?
I like the idea that we're allowed to have memories of it, but the fact that like there's no record of like the heroes that defeated the Shattered. Like the old headmaster or the old head teacher, sure, but like our names aren't in the history book by choice, by design. Also, because there's always a cult around of some description that want to get revenge on the people that banished. Just like, excuse me, that was our Dark Messiah, and you got rid of them, so we would like to take revenge now. Get dead.
They're so nice about saying this too.
Mm.
Okay.
What if we split it up among ourselves as well? Like,
Which element?
each of us can only remember what we did.
I like that.
Does that mean that I was gonna say that could be interesting then that means Ed doesn't know about Chloe choosing to sacrifice herself then? If Mario
Yeah, he thinks he did that because he failed.
Oh my god, you emo bastard. Edward Park, the man that you are.
Here we are. Here's our knives.
To our listeners, while we're making notes, because we're very aware of like harmful tropes. From the very first iteration of Ed Park as a character, Chloe has always been dead. I don't know if that makes it less fridging, because Ed isn't motivated by that. It's just like a shitty thing that happened. So
In Ed's defense, he's usually also dead.
he is usually also dead. And
this is true, yes.
You can't listen to it anywhere, but there is a game of A Girl by Midnight where Chloe is alive. I wouldn't say and well. It's a bad time over there, but we are playing like the Magica dark magical girl story over there. But she is alive. So, all right. But what marks do you still carry from that time? Everybody gets one.
I want Marius to have a sick scar.
Just a sick ass scar.
I think maybe they have like Chloe's handprint on their forearm.
You're giving me some big Castiel Ray's Dean energy right now.
I know, and I'm mad because it's sick as shit, and I hate that Supernatural like has the market cornered on it.
What if it's rather than your forearm, like on one of your shoulders? Like she patted your shoulder before she stepped up. Like it's okay.
You're not beating the Castiel raising Dean from hell allegations with that one.
Yeah, but I always think the shoulder is in the top of the shoulder, not like the top of the arm. But forearm also works.
The main reason I want it on the forearm is just so that way it's like, you know, easy to potentially see it. If Marius isn't careful.
I could not deny you this. Also, like, the fact that did a younger Marius not always wear long sleeves?
Yeah.
What if it's on the back of their neck?
Oof.
Oh. Yeah.
They wear their hair differently these days. It's weird.
Yeah. Like, now I'm imagining, like, Chloe has her hand on the back of Marius's neck as they're about to do the ritual, and she, like, touches their foreheads and is like, this is gonna be fine. And that's, like, you know, a lie. No Romo, though.
So, for Morden, once upon a time, Morden had brown eyes.
Nice.
Yeah, when I say Morden has dark eyes, I mean like the iris is black. The sclera is black. Like, it's bad. I say it's bad. It's disconcerting, but it is also one of those things that you don't necessarily notice right away. It's one of those. It's why I particularly like it. Maybe it's not the full sclera, but his irises are definitely maybe bigger. But yeah, it's like the ink that he wrote the ritual with has forever stained his eyes. He can't unsee what he did.
You see, instead of when you get sunspots or floaters, it's letters.
Yeah, it's not like I was gonna say I have a thing. The irises shed pigment throughout our lives, which is why kids have such vibrant eye colors, whereas adults tend to have more muted shades, especially as you get particularly old. Mostly when that happens, the body kind of just like carries it away and it just gets disposed of. Not me. As I have been told by opticians, it's just the pigment just hangs around there. It's not causing any problems. It's just there, floating around.
You just have this now.
Yeah. Fun little weird facts about Jade. Brought to you by Jade.
You learn something new every day.
Oh, Richard, that's so good.
In the realm of eye things, I think of Mr. the Luminary, who is looking at me strangely for calling him that, is probably half blind. Look, you can only stare into the sun for so long, especially when you're attempting to make it into a more potent form. But I think for that, the eye that he is unable to see out of, which I think would be his left one, is probably also something that he generally keeps a patch over, because if he has it uncovered, it is like a floodlight coming out of a skull.
Sick! Richard, please share what you wrote for fucking Seshmir, because that is dope as shit.
Seshmir is missing a horn. He sacrificed it to fashion the key to the temple outside the world where we perform the ritual.
Fucking baller.
I love all the terrible things we're doing to these people.
As for Ed, he used to be right-handed. He isn't anymore, because he can no longer write anything except his portion of the ritual with that hand.
Dope!
Oh.
We're all here just like, what horrible things can I do?
Oh, how shall I make things sad today? More spice, yes, please. Oh, the cap's fallen off the bottle.
I don't know if you're aware of Richard's predilection for hot sauce, Cory, but that is one of the funniest things you could have said with this group of people.
Let's go.
All right, and how is it coming back to haunt you?
Presumably our past, not the marks that we carry.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the strangest thing. When I look into the stars these days, they always seem to take a particular shape. To make that explicit, I think Apricus is seeing particular shapes in the constellations above that don't resemble constellations we know and are familiar with.
Good shit.
Okay, I think for Seshmir, his familiar Jenkins, who is normally a shapeshifter, now only appears in the form of a crow.
Delicious.
Truly an Animorphs situation.
I think, I know it's already been mentioned above, but I think for Morden, it might be the dreams that he's having, where Chloe appears. Especially given that we established that we can only remember parts of the ritual. So maybe Marius is dreaming, Morden is dreaming of the rest of the ritual as well. So
I'm trying to think, because I feel like my first thought is like too obvious.
talk it out.
There's value. Let's hear it.
So like Marius somehow blames themselves for the shattered being here, the first time. Like, whether or not they are actually responsible for it, like, they feel like they were doing a fuck around and ended up finding out. And my first instinct is there is a bird that perches on the windowsill of their office and just periodically taps on the glass with its beak.
I mean, that's great.
And I'm trying to decide if anybody else can see this bird or not.
It's very Telltale Heart. It's good.
Yeah, I was refraining from saying it, but it is,
Yeah.
Yeah. I clarified mine. Yeah. I clarified Morden is having dreams of the ritual, the whole thing, like it will be need to cast again.
Is this the kind of thing where you wake up and you're sitting in front of a journal?
I think it's more just like remembering a thing and you're like, why is that on my mind? Why am I remembering that? And then you bump into that person. So as somebody that believes in prophecy and things like that, having dreams of the past that don't feel like dreams, that feel like memories, is sort of like a warning in and of itself. He also keeps hearing birdsong, but that's a hard one to pass, whether it's actual birdsong or weird birdsong. But I like that as the communication thing being his vibe, that he's always hearing birdsong. Or every so often just hears birdsong, and he doesn't know if he's hearing it in his ears, with his mind, what it is. So
Here's a thought on Marius's bird.
Yes.
Everyone else can see it, but only under specific circumstances for that person.
ooh,
Africus can only see the bird through the light eye. Seshmir can only see it when he's looking through the eyes of his familiar.
that's very fun.
Incredible. This does make me think that Ed in particular keeps bumping into it, though.
My thought for how it's coming back to haunt Ed, I think, is closer to what you were saying earlier, Cory. I think he keeps waking up to these revisions of his portion of the ritual that clearly look like they've been written in his right-handed script. I think there are also occasionally slaughtered animals that he finds as well, with not visible wounds, just like they've been killed by this magic.
Oof.
Beautifully upsetting.
All right. So, this game works kind of similarly to a no dice, no masters system where each character has tokens that they can gain and then spend them to perform specific actions. But there are also threats that are things that, different players can kind of pick up and put forth into a scene. Technically speaking, this is more of a GM full game where each scene has a GM and that rotates on a scene per scene basis. But I think we'll probably end up sharing a lot of the GM power just by virtue of how we all tend to play together. So I'm not 100% sure how important it is for us to designate a GM for a scene. But the game... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Maybe each of us, to that end, to honour the spirit of the game rules, each of us, as the quote GM, will take a turn framing the scene. And then their character can then be in it as a mind, but just in the same way that in other systems it's somebody will lead the scene. Think of it that way, I suppose.
Yeah. Some things that the GM of a scene might do is describe the setting of the scene, where, when, who is there, and sketch a sketch of the immediate problem, tension, or situation. Decide which threats will be in the scene and push them. describe the environment, play NPCs, or ask another player to do so, play aspects of the threats as needed, present situations, not plot. Don't have a hard and fast idea for plot, because after you run a scene, the next GM might take your ideas in a totally different direction, and that's totally fine. Do check in with other players on the direction of the story as needed, ask the other players questions to flesh out the world, reincorporate and build on everyone's ideas, checking for consistency, decide when the scene ends, and reveal the solution to any mystery. And as far as some of the things that we can do to spend a token, we can solve a problem, uncover vital information, protect someone, cause harm, do a successful piece of non-trivial magic with no consequences, cover something up, or reveal the solution to any mystery. And for us to gain a token, we can make things worse, do a successful feat of magic with unintended and serious consequences, have your magic fail at a bad time, reveal a previously hidden and explosive truth, protect someone at great cost, or go too far. You also gain a token when, as GM, you turn it darker and increase the pressure.
This goes to our Discord chat as well, so if people are moving around in the PDF or whatever, it's a quick list, all in one place, because they're on two different pages of the PDF.
To be continued.